Well, hello there. Welcome to the Obi Thorn Alliance. I'm Jacob.
And I'm Luke.
And in today's video, we are reviewing Uncharted. Like and subscribe, hit the notification bell to be notified of the next coming videos. You were saying for this video, Luke, you wanted to try and review Uncharted differently to our normal review styles.
Yeah, I thought maybe we'll try and have a bit of a conversation opposed to the usual review style.
When we summarise it?
Yeah, so my thought behind that was because I've played the games and seen the movie, but you've only seen the movie. So we'll have different perspectives of the movie based upon that. Which, yes, when we give our verdict, we can explain that, but it might have more benefit talking about it organically like we would, for instance, in our other video series we do, which is the So What Have You Been Watching podcast. So from that, what were your first impressions of the movie?
First impressions when left the cinema?
Yeah, like, without putting a number on it, did you like it, essentially?
Yeah, I had fun with this. With the movie, I thought they cast the two main characters, Nathan Drake and Sully, really well. I think Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg brought charisma to the film. I guess, yes, they could have cast more to the games. We even got an appearance from the scene when they were at the island from the voice actor from the actual video game, so I guess they could have chose someone more closely to Nathan North, but I actually preferred Tom Holland. What was your first opinion?
Well, that's the one part of the movie I'm a bit mixed on, the casting. I don't think Mark Wahlberg or Tom Holland represented the characters that were in the game, but they did a good job in their own.
Yeah.
So Sully is a bit older in the games and has a moustache and he's a bit more sly than Mark Wahlberg came across, and Nathan Drake is a bit older than Tom Holland is, and he's a bit taller and a bit more muscular. But they both did good jobs. They just, in my head, Nathan Drake kind of looks like Nathan Fillion, the actor. Yes. That's who I would imagine would play him if you were to do it. But Tom Holland did a really good job. To me, I think I'm imagining he's just a younger Nathan Drake, which is kind of correct because this is his kind of origin story. So yes, you could just play it off that as he gets older, he becomes a bit more like the games.
I do feel like they did the casting choice for Tom Holland on purpose because Nathan Fillion, I do agree, I think is more a better actor for the games, but Nathan Fillion is older and I think Tom Holland is younger, and after Spider-Man, he's more of a smash hit actor, and if they want to make more movies, he's more of a younger person, and Mark Wahlberg is younger for Sully as well. So when you think about the longevity of the franchise, I think they made a younger, smarter choice with their actors. But when it comes to the games, they probably didn't justify, so they nailed it, but they also didn't in a way.
Yeah, I think in terms of placement of timeline, it's probably correct. That's probably about the age you'd expect them to be based on where they are in the stage of their exploration career, because the games are set a bit further. Nathan Drake has been on adventures before. It's not he's not just meeting Sully for the first time, so it makes sense actually. So the chemistry worked between them, and Tom Holland played a really good cheeky Nathan Drake. So I can't criticize their performances. It was just not what I had in mind from the games, but they were good. Let's kind of summarize what the movie is, though. For people that haven't seen it, without giving away the ending and some major scenes, what in essence is this movie and what happens?
It's basically a journey about two brothers trying to find this gold and this kind of journey together, and then they're trying to uncover this rumor about this expedition that happened in sea, and then we eventually find out that the brother has journeyed with Sully, and that's how they found out about it. And it's really a kind of like Fool's Gold, that journey about finding the story. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. It's like Fool's Gold mixed with maybe like a National Treasure kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, which is common in the Uncharted games of the gold they're always chasing or the treasure. It's always something to do with an exploration that went missing, and then they're following clues, or it's almost like, could almost add in like a Da Vinci Code style thing as well. So basically Nathan, him and his brother grew up in an orphanage, which is true to the games. They kind of go their separate way due to the older brother needing to like escape the law. He goes on to live a normal life, Nathan, but he's still kind of a criminal. Like, he pickpockets people and trying to schemes his way around. Sully has picked him out as being someone that's going to help him with his next exploration, because he already knew his older brother Sam. And then through that they go back and forward whether he wants to be involved or not. Ultimately decides, this is too good of a chance, we're going to find up to $5 billion in gold, let's do it. And just like all Discovery movies, there's always the bad people that also want, well, the thing is, what makes them bad? Like, they both ultimately want gold, but there's always some kind of villain that wants the gold, and it's a race to who's going to get the treasure. And then the bad people obviously kill and scheme and do whatever they can to beat the so-called good guys from getting to the treasure first. And the rest would be giving it away. But ultimately, they're trying to find this treasure through a series of working out clues, which is not obvious to the average person, but somehow Nathan Drake can solve them. Traveling around the world, fighting in planes, doing all kinds of cool stuff to find this amazing gold, and then ultimately linking in some kind of historical story, which was cool. You know. One thing, what did you think about the opening scene? Like, do you think that was a cool way to start off with action straight away?
I personally, the problem is that they chose to do the storytelling of, we know that that's where the events are going to lead to. Personally, I think it would have been better if we actually got to see more of the orphanage with his brother and maybe start there with them together. But as an action scene, it was fine, but I think if they chose to maybe start at the orphanage, that would have been better.
The reason I bring that up is because, having not played the games, if you'd played them, you would have known that that's something commonly done in the games, where it might start off with this full-on action scene, and then we go to a flashback, and then you play the flashback, and then suddenly it goes back to modern times, and then it might flash forward. Like, they do change between timelines. Yeah. So I really liked that, because I thought that was pretty true to the games, that you start off in this chase or a battle, and then suddenly you go back to an origin story. So I actually thought it was really cool, because it felt like the games. But in terms of just watching it in the sake of a movie sequence, you go, well, that's a bit muddled.
Yeah.
But it was kind of something that appealed to the gamer that had played it before.
Yeah.
I guess a lot of the other stuff is going to be more of spoilers, but who do you think this appeals to? Like, who would benefit from this movie?
Definitely people that enjoy the Uncharted games, and definitely fans of Tom Holland who have seen him in Spider-Man, and I think fans of the full gold movie and National Treasures, those sort of, there's like a mystery to find, and kind of go and explore and see different locations and things in that sort of nature. And yeah,
I think this is a movie that appeals to a really, really wide audience because you've got gamers, and as someone that played the game, I liked it. So I'm sure there's others that probably really love Uncharted that have issues with it, but I don't see an issue. I think it's really good. I think it appeals to people that like, mystery movies, people that just like Tom Holland or Mark Wahlberg, because Tom Holland was his usual cheeky Spidey self, basically, and Mark Wahlberg was his usual self, and it worked. You've got, if you're into spy movies like James Bond kind of thing, you're going to like it. If you just purely like action, and I think as well, even for kids, because it wasn't overly violent, or I don't think there was anything sexual in it whatsoever. So you could just watch it and purely be like, oh wow, like explosions and treasure and planes, and like I think it appealed to so many people that through that it just has a wider audience than your other movies. Like I think of something like a superhero movie. If you don't like superheroes, you just don't like them. But this, like, how do you say? Well, unless you say I hate action movies, this appeals to people that like drama, mystery. It just has a really wide range. So what we reckon, it appeals to a lot of people. We've summarised the story. We've kind of given our two sides of perspective, someone that hasn't played the game, someone has. Let's move on to giving a verdict and discussing a bit more in depth some of the spoiler-related topics of the movie.
Did you want to give the verdict first?
Yeah, okay, I'll go first. So for me, having been the person that's played the game, and they are one of my favourite game series besides maybe The Last of Us, so PlayStation exclusive games, I'm leaning towards maybe 4. I found it quite enjoyable. The length of time was good. The acting was good. The action was likable. There's a few little things in terms of solving the mysteries where you thought, well, that was a bit easy. And then when they were going through some of the hidden rooms and chambers, some of them, one of the places they had to go, had been turned into a nightclub. And you're like, well, if this is meant to be this hidden chamber underneath a city, why has someone not found this before? They've built something here, but they've never noticed that. But that's neither here nor there. So it's fun the whole way through. I was happy with the ending. I think that was fine. I think it was a good ending. They've opened it up and led to the possibility of future movies. From my memory, I believe it's pretty spot on and true to the games. It's obviously a prequel to them, but it still can link in with the games and not change any of the story. I'll talk about it in the spoiler section, but I think that they've linked it in perfectly, but I could be wrong because I haven't played the games that recently, so maybe I'm getting something confused. But from that, I'm thinking a 4. The only thing that why I couldn't give it higher is, I guess it's the start of the sequel. I don't really know where it's going to go from here. So if they continue to make movies, maybe a bit higher. But yeah, I think a 4 is a pretty good high rating for an action movie.
For me, from a person that hasn't played the games and just sees it as a game movie, I thoroughly enjoyed it, had a lot of fun with it. I think Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg brought their charisma. I do have some problems with the film, and I would highly recommend it to people because I think it definitely deserves the second movie, and if it doesn't get a second movie, I think the ending does the normal cliffhanger thing where I think is disappointing. So like with One of Us is Lying, I'm going to give 2 scores based on if we get a second one or not. So if it doesn't get a second one, a 3. If it does get a second one, a 3.5.
Okay. Why do you think not having a second one would make it seem worse?
Because to me, the ending, it doesn't conclude the movie. They sequel bait it, and to me, it's kind of like, well, I really want there to be a sequel, so I guess 3.5 is probably a better score, but to me, that ending just kind of, the ending kind of gives it a 3, so really 3.5.
Well, I guess I see it differently because I don't see it as sequel baiting. I think it's it's linking it to the games.
Mm.
So the games could be seen as the sequel.
Yeah, I don't have that knowledge.
Yeah, so maybe it's not a sequel bait. For me, that was the tie-in that made it fit in with the games, because in the games, the brother isn't dead. So in the movie, they're making out that he had died, but having played the games, I know he's not dead. So that was the one thing to go, oh, okay, they've kept it true to the games, the brother's not dead. So to me, I guess because you haven't played them, you could see it as sequel baiting, where for me, I see it as a linking of the series together. So, okay, well, there's our ratings. Let's talk into some spoilers. Have you got any questions for me, considering I've played the games? Are there any things about it that you didn't understand or would think that I might see differently than you?
From the first scene, is that from the Uncharted 3 action scene when he's doing the same thing? Because that's what I thought it was from.
Well, he does do that in the games, but they're not the same scene.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think they've kind of put that in because it's cool. And I one thing about the movie is they tried to... Ultimately in the games, Nathan Drake can climb and jump better than anyone should be able to. Like, he should be able to win Ninja Warrior so easily it's not funny. Like, so they tried to, in this game, in the movie, make that a thing by having him jump from the crates and hanging from the ceiling without making him seem superhuman. But that was kind of like homage to what happens in the games. So it was kind of like pushing the envelope but not taking the piss, because some of the things he does in the game are not possible. Like, no one can make these jumps he does. And like to be hanging from like a ledge and going, oh, I'm going to swing across, and if I happen to miss, I'm dead. Like, no one would do that in real life. Like, you wouldn't risk your life every 5 seconds to jump from cliff to cliff like he does in the game. So they try to add that to the movie. So without having an absolute expert knowledge on the games, I don't believe that the treasure they're chasing in the movie is anything in any of the games. So that's why I think it's a prequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is good. And that's why I like the linking at the end with the brother, because ultimately throughout the games, not until the fourth game does his brother really get mentioned, and you get to play an orphanage scene where he's like sneaking around and his brother takes off and he's like, oh, well, I'll come back for you. Like, he gives him the necklace and stuff. He's like, oh, like, you know what, I'll come back. But then that's in the game, it skips forward to then they're both in prison and they're trying to escape. Or they purposely have gone to prison because in prison they know that in this prison there's like a clue to help them find future gold. So in that, they then have to escape from the prison, and his brother gets shot, and then he leaves him, and he's like, well, my brother's dead. So that's why I was like, when in the movie they're saying, oh, he's dead, I'm like, but in the game that's not how he dies. But that's why I think now it's linked in that he finds out his brother's not dead because he gets another postcard. They reconnect. He goes to break his brother out of prison. He then thinks his brother dies in prison, but then ultimately he doesn't. He returns in the last game. So that's why I don't know if there will be sequels, because I think the games might be the sequels. Question for you. What did you think about the kind of on and off relationship they tried to play off with Tom Holland's character and the female character? Do you think that was good, bad, useful, or what were they trying to make out that they were going to be a couple? Or?
Yeah, I don't know. I did notice a constant theme that everyone's a backstabber, but I guess that is life, and I guess it, you know, for the first movie for him to already have a love interest, because I know in the games he eventually does, but I know it really didn't amount to anything, so I guess it was fine. I guess it's to teach him something moving forward if they do decide to make more movies, but it comes back to Sully's decision at the end, and I really quite liked that decision. But with that character development, she didn't really learn from it, so it was fine.
Yeah, I don't know if she's a reoccurring character from memory in the games, but there is a like a fifth game where you play as female characters, and she might be one of those. That's one game I haven't played, so that could be the reason they added her, because she might be a significant character. But I don't know. I haven't played them, so I'm sure someone will comment and tell me if I'm right or wrong. But that's my only thought. But yeah, they kind of played like he liked her and she may have liked him, but then in the end, he kind of tested her by putting out fake coordinates and seeing if she'd steal them, and she did, and it proved that, she's a backstabber. But back to you said you feel that there was that theme. I guess that's something they try and play in the games, that Sully is, at times seen as a backstabber and does wrong by Nathan, but somehow they always realise that he wasn't. He's doing the right thing. He just goes about it the wrong way, or he always, in the end, makes the morally right decision to help Nathan. Which was, as you said, what happened in the end. He had to decide between the gold or his friend, and he chose his friend.
Yeah.
Based on that, what did you think about the ending? Ultimately, they found the treasure, but then they didn't get to keep much of it. Do you think that was good?
Oh, I was fine with it. The moral of the story is that people are more important than money, and I agree with that.
But you mean like the fact that they didn't even, like the ships ultimately sunk and now it belongs to the Philippines?
Good on the Philippines,
yeah, I think it's a cool ending, because I guess if they were to get that gold and they'd be stupidly rich, there would be no need for them to do any more explorations. And I guess it does teach like good morals, and the fact that they, even though they didn't come out super wealthy or as wealthy as they hoped, they did discover and find this thing that they thought was always lost, so they forever can be like, we solved that mystery.
Yeah.
Even though they'll probably never get acknowledgement for it, or they wouldn't want to tell people because they probably broke some laws or killed some people.
At least they didn't get hit with the ship like the
kind of main villain character.
That is one of my nitpicks with the film. I don't know if you agree, but the main problem I had is that the villain had no substance to it, and I guess that, like the Uncharted, I definitely felt like the two main characters were well developed, really cared about them, and the villain, like the heroes are like up here and the villains are pathetic, really. To me, it's like, well, we get this one villain that's like, oh, it's rightfully mine, it's in my name, and then twist that I kind of saw coming is that the female, I don't know if she was in the games or not, kills him, and then it's like, oh, she felt not menacing, couldn't take her seriously, and then she dies anyway. So that's one of the nitpicks I have with the movie.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think she was a great villain, because they had set up that the character that Antonio Banderas played was, like a really bad guy, but ultimately he just gets taken out by one of his employees.
Yeah, it was meant to be a twist, but I kind of saw...
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen him at the end, and them having to take him on, and I guess they go, well, he wouldn't have been a good fighter. But to set up this rich villain and them to be nothing in the end, that's one of his henchmen as the real villain.
Yeah,
was not a great twist. And then I don't know. There's the whole thing about equality. Like I have no problem with a female villain, but is it a good message in movies to have men punching the crap out of women? Like, is like, I know we want equality, but is that a good thing, or is that sexist to say, well, we can't have a female villain because it's not fair? Well, it's like, well, but by having that, are we teaching people that, oh, it doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl, you can bash anyone up? Like, I don't know. Like, it's like a really mixed thing, and ultimately, well, I suppose she was pretty big and muscular. She probably could have fought them. But it's becoming really common in movies now to have a female bash up guys, which I don't have a problem with that. But then the reverse is, are we saying to kids it's fine for a guy to hit a girl as long as they can fight? Like, I don't know, it's a really weird message. But yeah, ultimately she got what she deserved. They try to add in this cool knife hook thing she used. Yeah. I don't know if I'm missing something, whether that was something in the games, like why that was her weapon of choice. But yeah, What do you think about the whole mystery and the way they solve it? Did you?
With the map?
Yeah, do you think it seemed a bit easy, or like some of the things they did was, like not challenging enough, or?
Oh, I guess I haven't played the game, so I don't know how. I would assume it's harder in the games, but for a movie, you don't want to make it too complex that they drag on too long for movie people because we got short attention spans. So I guess they were hard enough, but really the nightclub scene that you were talking about, it was more, it didn't seem that hard. It was more that the people that were trying to stop them was more the obstacle, not the obstacle course.
Yeah, and it's like, well, they wanted to ultimately they believed that the treasure was hidden somewhere in Barcelona, and then he worked out that it was at a church, and they needed these keys. But the villain, who was supposedly super, super wealthy, and this belonged to his family for centuries, he believed this gold was his birthright.
Yeah.
Why he'd never acquired the keys before. Like, why he needed to try and buy them at an auction, yet he had all these, like, henchmen. Like, why wouldn't... And he has people doing archaeological digs and research. Why didn't he just steal this key? Like, why he had never taken the key or found the key himself? He suddenly had to try and win it in an auction. And then he was getting worried that he was going to have to pay a lot of money to win it. If he was so wealthy and he knew he was going to get $5 billion worth of gold, you would have thought he would have just bidded crazy amounts of money and just won it. So, like, that was a bit interesting in the fact that he didn't have the keys and didn't have these journals with, like, the clues in it, yet they always were at the same spot that Sully and Nathan were, who were solving the clues. Like, why were they able to... Well, I guess the answer was that we worked it out because they were getting the answers from the female. Okay, that answers my own question. So I was watching the movie, I was like, why are they always at these places? How do they know where to go? Because they're getting told they're getting told the information from an insider. That answers the question. Because they're like, well, what was the point of getting all these things if they could just show up? And then ultimately, the ships were kind of in this cave that didn't require any keys or any booby traps to get into, that no one had ever explored that cave before. I don't know if I believe that. Like, it was a pretty open cave with a unique shark shape on it. Like you would have thought someone would have went in there before.
Over the top?
Or over the top, or someone would have been driving their boat around like, oh, that looks cool, let's go in there for a swim. And then, like, swim under and like, oh, look at these ships. Like, that no one had ever done that before, considering they knew that... Well, they didn't know that the gold was in the Philippines, but the story was that this guy had gone missing in the Philippines and something went wrong there, so you think they would have worked that out. But back to the booby traps. Do you, like... I question the fact that yes, it was in the church and they opened the keys and they went through all these different rooms, but how that those rooms were then, like, linked to, like, a nightclub and then underneath a pizza shop. How when building those things, they didn't realise, like, oh, look, in this room, it looks like there's, like, some treasure or something. Like, I don't understand how that works, that the clues were inside these nightclubs and no one had ever, like, knocked it down or, like, rebuilt it, that they just kept it as is.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty fortunate that stayed the same.
Yeah.
And, like, that water fountain to be able to, like, drain and fill up a room, I don't know if they could have built that 500 years ago. Like, is that, like, a reasonable booby trap for being able to be built?
I don't know, and kept that water for so long.
Yeah. But it was just fun. I guess they're just tiny issues with... But the game's very much like that. You go, that wouldn't happen. Or the clues are always, like, well-preserved or easy to find, where I don't know how much gold there is in real life that people can go find, how many missing ships. I don't know if it's as simple as they make out in the movies or the games.
Well, the other nitpicks I had, I know you mentioned in the beginning, I just felt like that was a weird story choice, but if they're paying homage to the games, that makes sense. I just personally felt like it would have been better to develop the his brother's relationship. It felt very quick that they went past that, and then it's like, oh, he's a bartender now, and then we know the events are going to lead up to him being where he is. Like, it was cool him like floating. It's like, oh, what's happened? But I think it would have been better to develop his reason why he hates nuns. Like, that was like the gag joke why he hates nuns, and we don't know why.
I think it was an interesting point in the movie to pick to flash forward to, but in saying that, it pays homage to the games, but I don't hate the idea of starting off with action, because some movies have that slow start, and sometimes that can really hurt it, because you could go, I'm not interested in this, where with a fast start you're already locked in. But yeah, it's an interesting choice, but I think it's one that paid off. I think it probably impressed more people than it annoyed. Like, I know it's a slight nitpick, but it's not a make or break factor. Like, you're not going to say that ruined the movie.
No.
But it was, for a lot of people, it would have been like, that made the movie for me. So it probably made more people happy than it disappointed. So it's probably a smart choice.
Should we talk about the true ending, because we get 2 ending credit scenes?
Yeah, I didn't actually watch them. I didn't know there was an end credit scene.
Well, we get 2 ending credit scenes that I picked it throughout the movie. They kept saying, oh, Sam's dead, and I never thought he was dead. I guessed it. In the ending credit scene, we get to see Sam in prison, and...
I saw that. Sorry, I didn't know that. Was that... I feel like that was before the credits.
Oh, yeah, It
was like the end scene of the movie.
Yeah, the end scene. I guessed that Sam was alive, and the ending credit scene is that we see Nathan Drake talking to someone, and then we see Mark Wahlberg as Sully with a moustache, and then it ends with them saying, oh, we're in trouble, and then, yeah.
Okay, I didn't see that one. I should look it up. I'm guessing that links it to the first game.
Okay.
Because the first game is kind of like a mix between National Treasure and maybe Fool's Gold, because it is set kind of island location, and then like a reporter comes with him to try and and then she gets caught up in the middle of them in their explorations, and that's who he eventually marries. So I feel like that's probably where it's trying to link that in. And Sully does have a moustache in the game, sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, the brother link, I think that was quite cool, and the writing on the postcard, like, I think that really like links it into future movies, or the games could just be the link. I don't know. I'd like to know what their plan is, but if they were to end it where it was, as someone that's played the game, I'd be happy. But as someone that hasn't, you go, well, there's something missing, but maybe you need to play the games then. Because then if you play the games, you go, well, that was fine. I've now got to live the sequels. I've got to physically play the sequels to this movie, which is a cool thing.
Anything that you thought they could have done better?
No, I think after chatting with you, I think the things I was unsure of, I understand now, and the casting, I don't think it accurately reflects the characters, but that's based on the games. This is based on prequels to the game, so I think maybe it is a fine character choice.
Just not in the villain department.
Yeah, the games kind of have vague villains. I just don't know if they will make a sequel, because the games have some supernatural things in them, like zombies and stuff like that. And I just think as a movie, once you add that, it can come a bit silly, where I think we can just leave the movie as is and then the game as is. I think that could work fine. So I'm the more I think about it, I don't know if there will be a sequel.
And did you like seeing, like I mentioned, the scene when they're on the beach, and then we get to see this person talking to them, and for people that probably don't know, the real voice actor's Nathan North. Did you recognise the voice of Uncharted in the video games?
I didn't recognise the voice because I don't think he really sounded much like him, even though it is him. It's just, I it wasn't noticeable. But once he made some references to like, oh, I've been there, I've done that. And the fact that that character was picked out, like they had a conversation with him. I picked up who it was, and then when I finished, I looked it up, and the movie, I knew who it was. But It wasn't blatant. I didn't like go, oh, that's Nathan North, because I didn't know who Nathan North was. I just was like, oh, I bet you that's the guy that voices Nathan in the games.
Did you like that they added that little Easter egg, or did you kind of go, well, what was the reason for that? Because it's kind of confusing, because are they both Nathan Drakes, or is he just a random person at that island?
No, I think it's cool. I think it's a worthwhile Easter egg, and I guess they put him in there almost out of like respect because he's been part of the games. But he is not Nathan Drake. He's just a random guy on the beach that they added like a funny line in there to try and link it in. So yeah, I'm fine. That was a cool Easter egg.
So overall, Luke, you're happy with that? You feel like it's a successful game adaptation, and you would recommend people to watch it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think I'd like to see it not have a sequel, thinking about it, because I think any sequels will then be remaking the games, and I think then you get into trouble. You remake the game into a movie, you could ruin it, where this is just purely a prequel to the game, and I'm happy with that. So I'm sticking with my rating of 4, and I'm happy for it to just end where it is.
I definitely agree. I would definitely recommend people to watch it. I think it's just a fun movie that you can just enjoy the ride, and I think I can understand where Luke's coming from, but I haven't experienced the game, so personally I would still like to continue the story, but if it doesn't happen, I really enjoyed the first one, so I guess part of me would definitely like there to be a second one, so yeah.
Sure.
Well, thank you for helping, Luke.
No worries.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe. See you. Let the force be with you. Bye-bye.